Malika Brooks, 33 years old, 7 months pregnant, was driving her 11-year-old child to school when she was pulled over for allegedly speeding. The police told her she'd been speeding and gave her a speeding ticket, and she looked at the speeding ticket and the cop said, "You have to sign the back of the ticket." Well, she said, "That will be admitting guilt. I really can't do that. I'll take the ticket, but I can't sign it." The policeman said, "You either sign the ticket, lady, or I may have to take you to jail." She refused. The first cop called a second cop in who told her that if she didn't sign the ticket, she would go to jail. A third policeman was called in as backup at that point, who told her if she did not sign the ticket, she would be tasered. He showed her the gun, flipped it around like a cowboy, showed her how it would stun her. She grabbed the steering wheel, stood her ground, and refused to sign the ticket. She informed them, she said, "I'm pregnant. In 60 days, I'm going to give birth to a kid." The cop said, "Well, we're going to have to taser you if you don't get out of the car. We're taking you to jail." She held onto the steering wheel. At that point, the three cops actually discussed in front of her what they were going to do to her. They said, "Where should we taser her?" First, all of a sudden, they tasered her in the thigh, they tasered her in the side, and then they tasered her in the neck. She falls out of the car onto the pavement at that point. They push her face down and put handcuffs on her back, pick up this pregnant woman, and take her to jail. Well, this lady wasn't going to let this stand, so she went all the way up to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, the Federal Court of Appeals, arguing that this was excessive force, and these cops, she said, should give her some damages for what they did to her, violating her rights, tasering her for a minor speeding violation. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled, yes, this is excessive force, but they ruled the police have qualified immunity even when they use excessive force against American citizens. They can't be fined, they can't be in any way reprimanded. She then appealed to the Supreme Court and, as you might expect, the Supreme Court refused to hear the case and let it stand.
Let me ask you, you got hit with a taser today, right?
Yes, I did.
What happened?
Man, I didn't know what happened. I got hit with that. I got blinked, short of breath.
What did it feel like? You were running, right?
Uh-huh.
What do you remember? You're running?
I remember I was running. I jumped this gate. After I jumped that gate, I just dropped. That was it.
That was it?
That was it. I just dropped.
You see anything, hear anything?
Man, I saw the little stars like I told you, and then I fell flat on my face, dirt all in my mouth. You don't want to deal with that taser, trust me.
It's some nasty ride, huh?
If you was to get your ass whooped by the police officer, take that ass whooping. Don't take that taser, man. I'm telling you.
Being tasered is no light thing. For example, watch this scene here of someone being tasered.
Taser. Taser, taser. 2, 1.
Incredibly, since the year 2001, over 500 people have died from being tased by the police. In a 2008 report, Amnesty International reviewed hundreds of deaths following taser use and found that 90% of those who died after being struck with a taser were unarmed. In late 2007, the United Nations Committee Against Torture declared that the use of tasers constituted a form of torture. More and more people are being tasered. Let me give you a few examples of people who have been tasered. In Florida, a 15-year-old girl was tasered after being taken off a bus following a disturbance. In Arizona, a runaway 9-year-old girl was tased as she sat in the back seat of a police car with her hands cuffed behind her back. In Oregon, police tased a blind and partially deaf 71-year-old multiple times in her own front yard. In another instance, a Florida woman, 12 weeks pregnant, was tased after refusing to submit to a strip search at the jail. She spontaneously miscarried 7 days later. In Texas, a 72-year-old great-grandmother was tased after refusing to sign a speeding ticket. Yet despite all the evidence, the police are using tasers more and more. In fact, the tasers are getting more streamlined and more invasive. There's now the X12 taser shotgun, which can shoot tasers from a distance. And actually, when this thing enters your body, if it hits you, it's got little fins like a guided missile. It actually sticks you in the chest, breaks in two, and tasers you again. What needs to be done? Obviously, there needs to be a moratorium placed on tasers. If they're so-called non-lethal weapons, then they need to find a way to make them non-lethal. As we know, many people have died from using tasers. The ACLU, in a study in New York, has found that they're being increasingly used on unarmed people, people who are just arguing, and things like that. So, in my opinion, tasers should be outlawed at this point until we find a way that they can be used safely. If they can't, then they should not be used at all.